that's CJ on the track.
Governor of college football, we're going to recap ACC.
Hey, that's
Two great
CJ on the
defensive
track.
minds. They have to be better on that side of the ball. See if we can fix that. I think my microphone is good now, so you guys heard none of that. Great. Welcome to another marvelous episode. That's crazy. I didn't check it. I was online producing Moon's episode, and I normally go through my checks and balances. I didn't check it, but shout out to everybody who's been paying attention to the show. I shouted out Moon to begin this episode. Great job on his World of College Football episode. He always deep dives with a lot of different teams. If you want more Governor of College Football content, make sure you subscribe on YouTube at Governor of College Football. I'll repurpose a lot of the content on there, whether it's via shorts or segmented uploads. So make sure you guys subscribe there. We got a jam-packed episode today, so we going to get right into it on this Thursday. Regrettably, it's the last episode of the week. Y'all know we only stream Monday through Thursday. Yeah, only it's 4 episodes a week, but let's get into it. So, it's crazy that this episode started off with no audio. That's wild. Welcome to live TV, people. Alrighty, so the college football playoff is in a straight seeding format, and I wonder how everybody is feeling about this overall. I think last year we kind of didn't like the auto bids. We kind of didn't like to pass a certain team, like Oregon went undefeated during Big 12 play during Big 10 play in the regular season, won the Big 10 championship against Penn State in a high-scoring affair, and congratulations, their award for being the highest seed is playing a red-hot Ohio State team. That wasn't very fair to them. And then we see on the flip side, Penn State loses in the college football, in Conference USA I said Conference USA, I'm sorry, my phone's ringing. They lost in the Big 10 championship against Oregon last year. I need to toss this damn phone somewhere, it's annoying. They lost in the Big 10 championship last year to Oregon, and they kind of got awarded by being able to play home. Yes, they didn't get a bye, but they was able to play home against SMU round 1, faced the Notre Dame team that they had an opportunity to beat in the second round, but they ultimately lost. I think them going to a straight seeding format is 100% the way to go. It's 100% the way to go. Straight seeding. That way, if they, conference champions should be awarded. They should be in the playoff, but the seeding should be based on the ranking of the final college football playoff ranking. The seeding, like Oregon, should have been able to have an easier way of getting to the playoff because of the work that they've done in the regular season and in conference championship play. In other news, Notre Dame secures a 4-star running back in Jonas Walton. 2026 recruiting class is really heating up. I don't pay a lot of attention to it. Shout out to D Now. Shout out to Nino. I think they pay more attention to recruiting than I do. Part of the reason I don't pay a lot of attention to it is because of flipping season. I believe I explained that on the show before. Like SCS built a marvelous 2026 and 2027 class. Let's see if December, third week of December, if this able to hold true. If they're able to keep this class that they formulated. So I don't pay as much as to recruiting as many people do, especially a lot of the CFF guys, who's really into fantasy. They're big on the recruits. I start paying more attention to the recruits. Like the top guys, of course, I'm going to make sure I know them, know where they're going, and see what their chances are playing, day one or week one of the college football season. And I'm also watching Debbie Darlings to see who D Now and Nino are eyeing for the upcoming season. But I pay more attention to them once they're on campus. We've even seen early enrollees hit the late window transfer portal. That's just where I'm at. We're recruiting. Pitt inducts Aaron Donald until this Hall of Fame. Probably should have been there. I was at Pitt and Syracuse game last year where Pitt absolutely destroyed Syracuse in the game. I thought it was going to be a really good game, and I thought Fran Brown and Cal McCord and company were having a good opportunity to march it to Pittsburgh and come out with a win. Unfortunately, they were not, but that day they did give Larry Fitzgerald an award, so it's kind of dope, being one in the NFL stadium, because most of the stadiums we go to are on-campus stadiums. They're at the college or university, but Pitt plays their games. I still call it Heinz Field or Three River Stadium, if you remember that name from back in the day. I think it's called Acrisure or something like that now, stadium, but that's where Pitt plays their games. I was at that game when they honored Larry Fitzgerald. And hopefully I'm at the game. I know I'll be at least at one Pitt game this year. I'm not sure if they'll be at the game that Aaron Donald gets inducted. But it's always good to see what he's been able to do at the collegiate level, to kind of come in the NFL undersized and be able to dominate at the level that he was able to dominate. So shout out to him and happy trails for him. I hope he's just truly enjoying retirement. I think smart players get out of the game before the game takes you out, if that makes sense. And I think Aaron Donald was able to do that. I think Willie Fritz and Houston are really building something interesting. CFB Nation have been huge fans, especially my boy Nino of Connor Wegman. We think that he can light up the Big 12. We've always talked about it. If you've been following this show every day, we always talk about the Big 12. A couple teams always on the rise at the Big 12. Shout out to the Big 12. We did get email from them a few days ago about going to Big 12 Media Days. I can't wait to vote on the teams again. I was dead wrong about Arizona State last year. I'm all in on Iowa State, and we'll talk a little bit more about Iowa State later, but kind of cool to see what's going on with Houston, being able to revamp this offensive line, get the players that Willie Fritz needs in order to run his system. And Connor Wegman is going to have a huge chip on his shoulder this year, and I'm kind of excited to see that. Charlotte 49ers announces a new stadium. We go to the city of Charlotte every year, at least twice a year we go. If it were up to me, we would go more times a year. We always go for ACC Media Days. Kind of enjoy staying in the same Airbnb. I don't want to kind of let it, because I don't want somebody to try to buy that Airbnb, because it's our Airbnb. It's where we like to stay. But I really love the city of Charlotte. It's a budding city. It's a growing city. If you look at where it was before the Carolina Panthers got there versus now, it's just really blossomed into a beautiful city. I love what the Charlotte 49ers have done this past offseason. We're going to talk about them in our rebuild report, kind of foreshadowing that, who we'll be talking about a little bit later. But $70 million, expansion of Jerry, Richardson Stadium, August 27th. That's crazy. The seating capacity, 18,000. That's really good. Premium amenities and enhancing the game day experience. This is the city that I think you want to be in. It's one of the hubs. It's the hub for the ACC. And even though Charlotte isn't in the ACC, it's beautiful to see what they got brewing there. So these are our news stories for today. I'm ready to get into this new segment I was telling you guys about, called the Governor's Rebuild Report, and we'll get into that right now. So the Governor's rebuild report. We're going to examine some teams who are currently rebuilding, kind of monitor their schedule this upcoming season, and see if this rebuild can happen, faster than we would like, or will this rebuild be slower than we like. And the first team on our slate is the team from Starkville, and that's the Mississippi State Bulldogs. I'm a huge fan of Jeff Lebby. I really like the way that, I really love the job, first and foremost, that he did in Oklahoma, headed to Mississippi State after just a terrible time in 2023 at Mississippi State, especially what happened to Will Rogers. There's a few players, like what happened to Will Rogers, being 100% lied to about the type of system I think it was Coach Arnett at the time was going to run, and it was just a pitiful time. So Mississippi State went 2-10 last year, 0-8 overall. The SEC wasn't a good year. His inaugural season was bad. Really a challenging schedule. 2-10 overall. And I think about Blake Shapen. I felt really bad for Blake Shapen last year, because if there was a guy who I felt like won the spring season of 2024, Blake Shapen. He looked re-energized from his time at Baylor. He looked like he was happy to be playing in Jeff Lebby's system. And granted, all of the games he played in didn't end in wins, and I believe he was hurt during the Florida game. He had a solid season, 8 touchdowns, 1 interception, and they took a really good Arizona State team down to the wire. I think they lost the game 30-23. So I'm interested to see what he looks like this year. I think they get Arizona State week 2 of this upcoming season. We're also going to get to Mississippi State this season. Their schedule. And then we want to also talk about, is there a role for them to be bowl eligible? I think year 2 for Jeff Lebby, I think you can make the boosters happy by being bowl eligible. You're playing in a tough conference. You're kind of in the bottom of the barrel in a really tough conference. But I think Mississippi State got some things. And they got some key players on this roster. I think a lot of it just gets overlooked because they were down early a lot in games. Running back Devon Booth had a really good season last year, really underrated season. But like I said earlier, Mississippi State was down early in so many games. He didn't get as many opportunities as he should have. He had 4 touchdowns on 13 receptions. Now, that tells me, as a coordinator, that we need to get this kid to rock in open space, because he's going to find a way to score. He had another 752 yards on the ground, averaged over 5 yards a carry, and 5 TDs. I think if he had more shares and had the ability to run the rock more, I think he'd have been more impressive. And it's kind of frustrating. But I truly believe with Shapen, with Booth, and Lebby, offensively, this team could have something brewing in Starkville. Let's look ahead at their schedule and kind of talk about who they play this year and what I think their path for bowl eligibility is. They start out week 1 at Southern Miss. That's a must-win game. Week 2, they play Arizona State. And I know a bunch of us are really high on Kenny Dillingham. We like what Arizona State did last year. We know they lost, Cam Scatterboo. But leave it as back at quarterback this year. If Mississippi State can find a way to win this game, I think this is kind of their key game to bowl eligibility. Play Alcorn State the week after that. So if they can start off the season 3-0, that would be really great for them. 2-1 is probably more likely with how good Arizona State is, but they played them well last year. And they're coming to Starkville this year, so it'll be interesting. And then they play Northern Illinois. They have to find a way to at least go 3-1. I think 4-0 is their way of making bowl eligibility. What do you guys rate Tennessee this year? Tennessee travels to Starkville. I think this is a game where I favor Tennessee heading into the game, but I think Mississippi State has a chance, especially if Blake Shapen is healthy, especially if they're clicking on all cylinders offensively. They have an opportunity to win this game. After that, they go to College Station at Texas A&M. That is a loss. They go to Florida in Gainesville to play Florida. That is a loss. Then they play Texas. That is a loss. At Arkansas, if they can, Sam Pittman, I think, is a coach that's fighting for his job this upcoming season. If they can find a way to beat Arkansas, now we're looking at about 5 wins. 5 wins. Then they play Georgia. I don't think they win that one. At Missouri, I don't think they win that one. They'll have a chance, but they don't win that one. Then they have their home game against the rivalry against Ole Miss, the last game of the season. Bowl eligibility will keep the boosters off of Jeff Lebby back. I think they'll say, hey, he's building something. Let's continue to let him cook. But I think the key is 3-1 coming out of the first quarter, if not 4-0. If they can find a way to win that Arizona State game, look out. Because 4-0, Tennessee's coming to Starkville. We could be talking about 5-0. I know that's pie in the sky for a lot of you, but, and looking at this rebuild report, I think we're going to try to look at the glass half full versus it's half empty. This isn't me doing the governor's ruling segment where I'm trying to beat down on the team. This is the rebuild report. I'm going to be honest, but I do think there's an opportunity for this team to be bowl eligible this year. I know it was ugly last year. Going 0-8 in your conference is abysmal. It's embarrassing. It truly is embarrassing. But, he did have a little, reason with Blake Shapen getting injured. I'm just hoping that this season they come out firing on all cylinders. They take these first 4 games very seriously, and then we'll see where they're at September 27th, week 5 against Tennessee. I'm interested to see what this Bulldog team will be this upcoming season. Coming up next on a rebuild report, we're going to talk about the Charlotte 49ers. I foreshadowed this in the opening. You probably didn't hear it because my mic was muted because I was in a different program because I was producing Moon's show and got in my program and forgot to make sure I changed my microphone. That was on me. That won't happen again. Well, I can't guarantee that won't happen again. But let's talk about their 2024 season. And we're 5-7 overall, 4-4 in the AAC. And then they had Coach Biff Poggi, the first 10 games last season, and Tim Brewster, their final 2 games. They showed signs of progress. They was 500 in the conference. Did struggle offensively, only averaged 17.5 points per game. And they demonstrated resilience from time to time. With new leadership and focus on recruiting, Charlotte aims to build upon this foundation this upcoming season. Tim Albin knows how to win at the G5 level. And I think a lot of people were surprised that he opted to head to Charlotte over staying at Ohio, where they were able to win the conference last season. And also he was the 2024 Coach of the Year in the MAC conference. You don't think a guy, who is at a conference, knows how to win in a conference, just got Coach of the Year, and you think if he's not taking a P4 job, he's just going to stay right there. But I equate this move very similarly to I equated what Jamie Chadwell was at Coastal Carolina and kind of done all he can do at Coastal. And I feel like Tim Albin did kind of all that he can do at Ohio. He went to a school that many people probably see as a lateral move. I don't see Jamie Chadwell going to Liberty as a lateral move, but some people will see this, Tim Albin going from Ohio to Charlotte as a lateral move. I'm not so sure just because of the resources that are down in Charlotte. The weather is nicer in Charlotte. I mean, Myrtle Beach isn't too far away from Charlotte. Charlotte is a growing city. It's a budding city. The ACC is down there. So if there's a team, in the ACC who's looking for a coach this offseason and they see the work that Tim Albin does in Charlotte, he's right there. He's right there. So I really like this move for him. So I really do like the move, and the fact that they're going to, spend $70 million, it shows you that this university isn't afraid to spend money. $70 million on upgrades for the stadium is really cool. So I was looking over their roster, and I saw that Connor Harrell is going to be the guy at the helm. I think the ACC had 5 different schools who brought 2 quarterbacks to ACC Media Days last year. I think Pitt was one of them. UNC was one of them. You guys know I hated the SMU move last year. They were another school. Had brought a bunch of people, bunch of quarterbacks to ACC Media Days. But Connor Harrell, I think this is the move that I really love this move. I think this kid has an immense amount of talent. I think what Tim Albin in his first year already been able to do via the portal, he's play some players around there. And if you kind of look at what Tim Albin is doing as head coach there, he's kind of moving in a similar way. Like, I look at how Jeff Brom has moved at Louisville. A lot of people don't like that he's constantly going to the portal to get his guys. Well, if you're constructing a roster and you're trying to construct that roster via high school, it'll take 2 or 3 seasons, sometimes even 4 seasons, to have all the guys that you recruited. When you first get to a job, a lot of those players were Satterfield's players. That's the name of the game. So he's looking at, okay, how do we win now and how do we win later? That's how our programs are built. I think that's how teams are built in the NFL too. You build your team to have the ability to win now and to have that ability to win later. So I think that Tim Albin, seeing kind of what Jeff Brom was able to do at Louisville, hey, I don't have the players I want on this roster yet. Not the players that I recruit out of high school. Let me go ahead, get active in a portal, which he was able to do. Really active in a portal, and then 2 or 3 seasons, give me some time and I'll have the pieces that I need. So they got week 1 Friday night game versus Appalachian State. It's a neutral site game. Week 2 they play North Carolina. Circle this game. Everybody circle this game on the calendar. Because I promise you, remember when we saw JMU put up 70 points on North Carolina last year on its kind of head scratchers? Nobody's going to put up 70 points on the Bill Belichick coach team. I can tell you that. But the reason I'm telling you to circle this game is because I love those revenge games. Like I always talk about that September 20th game where Jackson Arnold and the people who think he's washed because he just didn't excel in Seth Luttrell's offense last season. I'm circling that game where he gets to go back to Norman and show y'all, hey, if I was in a better offense, hey, if I had these players around me, I would have been able to excel in your offense. So I got that game circled. And the reason I got this September 6th game is because Connor Harrell gets to go against a team that didn't really deem him as the guy as quarterback. So you think if he's not going to be motivated for that game, he's going to be very motivated for that game. And guess what? Charlotte's first 4 games are at home. They're at home. I've talked about on this show before that I believe that college football needs to probably go to an NFL-style scheduling just because of, some of the imbalance. But teams that are able to schedule smartly, like the Illinois of the world, I think they have 7 home games this year. Louisville has 8 home games this year. So that means they only have to travel 4 times on the road. The teams who have 7 home games mean they only have to travel 5 times. So to open up App State, it's a neutral site. They don't really consider it a home game, but it's a neutral site. I'm going to check that as a home game. Then they play North Carolina, Monmouth, Rice, then at South Florida. South Florida, in my opinion, is a big dog in that conference. I really do believe they're a big dog in the ACC. I'm sorry, in the AAC. So they play App State, North Carolina. I'm interested to see what App State's looking like this year. Got a new head coach. We all remember what happened with, Hurricane Helena last year. And that team just really underwhelmed last year, if I'm being honest. But it was bigger than football. It was deeper than football. I think I had App State picked as my preseason pick to win the Sun Belt last year. But, it is what it is. So if Charlotte can come out and win that game, look out. Then week 2 versus North Carolina, I know everybody's circling in that game in Tar Heel country in Chapel Hill. It's going to be an easy way. I don't think Charlotte 49ers is going to be an easy out. I'm telling you, Tim Albin teams are going to compete. And North Carolina may end up winning the game, but they're going to compete. And Connor Harrell, his teammates, if he's able to be able to come in the spring, win over that locker room, and his teammates truly believe in him and believe he's the guy that can win games for them, they're going to want to go out and win that game for him and hand him that ball. So don't be surprised. They didn't play Monmouth, then Rice, South Florida, and Army. Army's lost a lot of production. They really have, but they can still be a stout team. So the App State team, I don't know where they're at. Charlotte 49ers, I don't know where they're at, but I'm going to give the 49ers an edge. Remember, glass half full. This is the rebuild report. Alrighty. North Carolina. I'm going to say North Carolina wins that game, but it wouldn't surprise me if Charlotte found a way to be competitive and be competitive down the stretch. Monmouth, giving that game to Charlotte, so let's say 2-1. Rice, I'm giving that game to Charlotte. Let's say 3-1. That's South Florida. I'm going South Florida. They're 3-2. At Army, that's a tough one. If they can find a way to stop the run, the loss of production that Army had, even though Army ran through the AAC last year, it'll be interesting. Versus Temple, I'm going to give them the win. So we looking at this right now. What are they? 1, 2, 3, 4-3. That's not bad. North Texas is a winnable game. They did lose their quarterback Chandler Morris. He's at UVA now. If they can win that game, look out. Because then they're 5-3. Now they're really cooking. ECU is a budding program. I was able to go down to Greenville, North Carolina last year. First game of my tour last year. I know Moon started a week ahead of me last year, but I was able to see them play Norfolk State. I look forward to seeing Norfolk State. We always do a HBCU week every week. I'm not sure what week we're going to do that, but it's typically a week there isn't a lot of marquee games. UTSA, where's UTSA at this year? At Georgia and at Tulane as your last 2 games is rough for Charlotte. It's rough for Charlotte. I think the ceiling is somewhere around 7-5, maybe 8-4, depending on how the cards lay. 6-6 bowl eligibility, I think, is a win, but 7-5 is even better. And Tim Albin, with his experience at the G5 level, he knows how to win at the G5 ranks. I promise you, he knows how to win. Up next, we're going to talk about Arizona Wildcats. Arizona Wildcats, I always talk about how Arizona State, how I kind of voted them as the last best team in the Big 12 last year, but we ain't going to talk about that. Arizona, I was really high on Arizona, and before the season, I think I had them ranked as one of the best teams in the Big 12. I changed on them at the very last minute, and I went with Kansas State. Kansas State kind of disappointed me, even though they didn't have a bad season. They disappointed me last year. But Arizona, after the success that Jed Fish had at Arizona in 2023, to me, it was surprising that he left. He left in the fashion that he did. Like, there's a few coaches who really left their schools in a very disappointing way. I think Jed Fish was one of them. Is this a forward move? He progressed by going to Washington. There's just more resources. Yes, he progressed. They're in the Big Ten. Yes, it was a progressive move. I'm not saying that. I just didn't like the way he left. Didn't like the way that Mike Elko left Durham. And the fans didn't and the media didn't. And they told you about it. I love going to media days because you hear these stories, the gossip stories about these, these reporters and stuff who's around the universities 24/7. The crap that I was hearing about Colorado in 2023 was mind-boggling, bro. Some of that I won't repeat, but we was hearing a lot of stuff. So I was surprised that Jed Fish left. Yes, it was a progressive move. I was just surprised because I was thinking that, hey, they can go into the Big 12, and the Big 12 could be for the taking. Didn't like the way that he left, but nonetheless, he left. So in comes Brent Brennan from San Jose State. I don't believe people truly know how difficult it is when these two things happen. One, you're making a conference change. The style of ball switches a little bit. It really does. Pac-12, very sexy football. I think Big 12 has a sexier brand of football as well. But a lot of these games, you better be able to win down the wire, down the stretch. I think that's how the Big 12 is. And they've had the closest scores over the last 5 to 7 years. A lot of their scores end up in one-score games, and the last 2 or 3 possessions of the game are going to really make a difference. And last year, they were able to show some flashes. It's just, I don't know. They just didn't. And I don't think Dino Babers, as an offense coordinator, even though I do love the job that he did in Syracuse. I believe that was 2022. He did a marvelous job at Syracuse. But I don't think that was like a hand-in-glove fit. I just really don't. So 4-8. 2024. Britain's trying to get the guys in the room, and it was crazy because Tadora McMillan, that wide receiver, Noah Fafita, I thought he was going to take a huge step forward in his progression as a quarterback. He didn't. Kind of went backwards, but I'm not out on Noah Fafita. I know Arizona has a tougher schedule this year. I believe Noah Fafita should be able to deliver. I think their offense will be a little bit changed this year. Now that they have Dino Babers is gone, they have Steph Doge, who comes from Marshall. I was able to see Marshall live last year. And one thing I learned about going to Marshall last year, which is in Huntington, West Virginia, was the stigmas that you have or the prejudices that you have may not always be true. Like, Huntington, West Virginia is beautiful, bro. Like, I went there, and we did go through a couple towns where, my expectations were reality, but I was blown away by Marshall. And that was one of those further trips that we took. But like I said, I was blown away about Marshall, and that has to be a staple. We're stopping there every year. Like, their fans were super dope. They were grabbing the cameras, talking trash in the cameras, because, we always try to get that B-roll activity so we can add it to websites or use it for B-rolls. If you ever seen, like, my show opening or World of College Football show opening, we used a lot of that stuff is capture footage that we got while we were at these games. But Seth Doge, his offense, it's a fun offense. I think he'll bring, it's pro style. I think he'll bring stability. Yes, they lost T-Mac to the draft. Hell of a wide receiver. But I think they'll have a lot of balance. I think Noah Fafita is going to want to prove a lot of people wrong this upcoming season. And then their running back, Ishmael Mahdi, he's a guy. He'll look to bring from Texas State. He'll look to bring physicality to this offense. So let's look at Arizona Wildcat schedule as with the theme for the entire rebuild report. What we want to look at and what we want to evaluate is how these teams look. What does their schedule look like? And is there a way for them to have some success? This is what the rebuild report is. It isn't a way for us to say, oh, boo, we hate your team. No, it's nothing like that. It's me looking at this thing as a glass half full, seeing where we are. Are we on schedule, ahead of schedule, or behind schedule? And it's okay if you're behind schedule, but we'll look at the schedule and see what is their formula, and are they able to get to can they compete for bowl eligibility? They had a terrible year last year. Bowl eligibility, I'm sure the fan base wouldn't be happy about that, but it's better than going 4-8, right? So they start off with Hawaii, that's a win. Weber State, that's a win. And they're another team with a myriad of home games. They got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 home games. So that's 7 at home, 5 away. So they got Hawaii, they got Weber State. They should start off 2-0. We'll see how Seth Doge is cooking, what Noah Fafita is looking like. Is he looking like Noah Fafita from 2023, who was poised, who was able to make a lot of throws from the pocket? He isn't dual threat, but he is mobile. He's also able to make some throws out of the pocket during that 2023 season. Then they play Kansas State and Iowa State. That's a tough stretch right there. You know, to play, home against Kansas State. We saw what Kansas State did to them. We was actually credentialed for that game last year, but my schedule would not allow me to get to that game this year. That will not be the case. I promise you I'm taking a leave of absence from work, and I'm going to do this college football thing 24/7 during the college football season. And that may be the way to go moving forward anyway. They ain't go at Iowa State. Anybody who knows, been following this for a little while, I'm high on Iowa State. I'm really high on Iowa State. I think they're going to win the conference. I really do. So I'm giving that a loss. Kansas State, where's Kansas State at this year? Chris Kleiman at? Was Avery Sunshine Johnson at? We seen them get embarrassed in some games last year, but, that BYU game was embarrassing because of the physicality. They almost lost that Colorado game last year. So where's Kansas State at? So either at this point after that Iowa State game, you either have them at 2-2 or 3-1. I think most people will say 2-2. Oklahoma State, are we out on Coach Gundy and company? I'm not. Last year was a bad year, and it started at media days. I think people underestimate, spring camps. They underestimate media days. They underestimate fall camps. Things were bad. There was a lot of questions that had to be answered last year about Oklahoma State because of terrible statements. And it's okay. I know that he's going to put the work in. The roster, I was looking at Oklahoma State roster earlier. I'm not feeling great about it, but, I do trust Coach Gundy. So it'd be interesting to see where they at. But I'm going to give Arizona a win here. So we're looking at 3-2 versus BYU. Where are you guys at with BYU? I'm not as high as BYU as most, but I do respect what they're able to do from a physical perspective. I like them a lot. Like I said, I like the way they play. Me knowing Big 12 ball, I just know that all of these teams that we think going to be good from last season are not going to be as good as we thought they were. And it's the same thing reciprocated. All the teams that we thought that were really bad, like I don't think Houston's going to be nearly as bad as they were last season. I just don't. I think Arizona's going to be improved as well. So the BYU game at Arizona, this is going to sound crazy, but give me Arizona. 4-2. At Houston, that's a tough game because I really don't know. I know Connor Wegman is going to ball out this year. So at Houston, at Colorado, I think they can beat Colorado. The Houston game will be tough, but let's say they split that and they're 4-3. Home versus Kansas, winnable game. Very winnable game. So even 4-4 or 5-3 at this point. At Cincinnati is a win for me. So let's say 5-4 or 6-3. I'll say 5-4. Baylor is a really good team. Baylor's a really good team. We can either go 6-4 here, or we can go 5-5 here. Depends where we want to go in that. Arizona State. A lot of people are high on Arizona State. I'm high on them. I'm just not as high as everybody else. I think there's a path for Arizona to go 6-6. I think 7-5. Great job by Brett Brennan and staff. Great job. That means Lower Fafita really lit it up. And if they do any better than that, then you can really look out because they'll be competing with the who's who of the conference. So this is the Rebuild Report. This is a segment I'll try to do at least once a week. Talking about these teams, we're going to look at them, discuss them, kind of figure out where they at. And we're looking at this as a glass half full, not a glass half empty. We don't want to be pessimistic, but we want to be optimistic. So up next, we're going to get to our governor's ruling segment. And today we're going to talk about if G5 should have a playoff. So I know this is going to throw some people off. Some people will be like, yo, Governor, I didn't think you'll be one of these crazy people thinking that, G5 should have a playoff. But hear me out. There's 136 FBS teams, right? I think the Power 4 conferences, we're looking at mid-60s amount of Power 4 conference teams. And then G5 teams, we're looking at about 70. When we're looking at how many, the overall landscape of how many teams, it's 5 G5 conferences, 4 Power 4 conferences, it's about mid-60s, 66 teams, and maybe 70 G5 teams. I know it sounds crazy when I sit here and say that the G5 should have its own playoff, but you're talking about 70 teams fighting for one spot into the playoff versus 66 teams fighting for 11 spots. Or 66 teams when we expand, fighting for 15 spots. You want 16-team playoff. I think it'll be creative. Now, I know some people will have an issue with it. I think it'll be creative if in some way, shape, or form we have a G5 playoff. I really do. I think it'll be a great idea. And the reason I believe it'll be a great idea is look no further than the Celebration Bowl. Every year, the MEAC and the SWAC, two HBCU conferences, they meet every year in December for a bowl game called the Celebration Bowl. And for those schools, because we know, none of those schools are amongst the elite in the FCS, their chances of winning a FCS championship are slim and none with, Slim leaving the building. It's really none. If we're being honest, that Celebration Bowl is their championship. That is their Super Bowl. And I know in college football, some of us believe that bowl games are consolation prizes. I don't think they're consolation prizes. I think they're a way for your teams to build heading into the next season. It's also a great, measuring stick or a great, recruitment piece to be like, hey, we went to a bowl game. Yeah, we won in a playoff. Yeah, we won in a highly rated bowl game, but we went in and we handled business. That's something Sharon Moore in Michigan can say. I think the G5 needs a playoff because when you look at that percentage, 70 teams fighting for one spot, that's either if it's the 12 team or the 16 playoff. 70 teams, one spot. Do the math on that. I need to get a percentage calculator out. 70 teams fighting for one spot? What is that percentage? What is it? You got a less than 1% chance of making the playoffs, man. What is that, 1.14 of making a playoff? So if we can look at this, honestly, I know what the College Football Playoff Committee said and what they say, and they truly believe that anybody has a chance to make the college football playoff. And yes, we've seen that from a great deal this past season. Hey, Arizona State made the college football playoff. Clemson made the college football playoff. SMU made the college football playoff. Boise State made the college football playoff. So yes, when you say yes, anybody can make the college football playoff, yes. But those anybody typically talk about the Power Four, programs in Notre Dame, of course, because they're independent. That's what we're talking about. So I think if we look at the G5, right, and I think if we do this right, and we do a playoff, 18 playoff, nothing crazy. We don't need another 12 team. We don't need another 16 or like the FCS does with 24. We don't need nothing that crazy. But if we did a G5 playoff, and of course that one team all the G5 schools going to be rooting for, hey, do your job. Hey, good luck. So that one G5 team that does make the playoff, of course, they wouldn't be a part of this G5 playoffs because they didn't make the playoff. We going to root them on. So for the other conference winners, and then based on rankings, the other best schools that are available, hey, man, we do a playoff. That playoff can consist of 8 teams. We can have the top 2 seeds get a bye. Then we're talking about 6 teams playing, and that'll be the first round of the playoffs. We'll get 3 games. Boom, they advance to, hold on. one team get a bye. And then we're talking about, 2 teams get a bye. Boom, we have a 3-team playoff. Then we advance to the second round. Then we advance to the semifinals. And I think we could get some TV money with that. And I know it isn't as big as seeing Ohio State and Notre Dame playing, of course, but it'll give something for the G5 to celebrate because the odds of them making the regular college football playoffs are very nil. Now, I'm sure there'll be some pushback from the college football playoff because they're not going to want them in this. They're just not. It is what it is. It's been very difficult for G5 teams to make the playoff. We know that Cincinnati was an anomaly because they were a G5 team that was able to make it during a 4-team era. We saw Boise State was able to make it this year. And of course, more teams can make it, but we know truthfully only one G5 team is going to make it to the playoffs year in and year out. I truly believe that the group of 5 schools should have its own playoff. I really do. You guys let me know in the comment section how y'all feel about it. I think it'll be dope if they kind of look at this the way that the Celebration Bowl, that blueprint, how they look at it with the SWAC and the MEAC. Celebration Bowl is huge. A lot of people don't pay attention to it. I know Moon has been to the last 3 Celebration Bowls. The last 3 years, and it's a big deal. Matter of fact, he streamed live in 2023 from the Celebration Bowl. And the amount of people he was able to sit down and interview a bunch of, athletic directors from schools and coaches and players. The Celebration Bowl is a big deal. And they put on a really good showing there. And that stadium is packed. It's really packed because this is the Super Bowl for these HBCU schools. It really is. So if we did the quarterfinals on campus, that'd be dope. Because then you get to see some of these really like small stadium atmospheres. Like the pyrotechnics at Liberty in Lynchburg, Virginia is phenomenal. I'm telling you, you'll see the flames go up, the fireworks, the band be banging too. It's a really good small day atmosphere. And I think Bridgeforth Stadium in Huntington, Virginia is dope too. JMU, where they play at. They're throwing a little stuff on the field. Like it's a crazy atmosphere. It's a really crazy atmosphere. One of the best small game atmospheres. So I think what you'll get is you'll get to see kind of like these schools that aren't on, on the main street, on the national stage. They get an opportunity to be on the national stage, especially if you try to focus on having these games instead of having them, on the weekend, trying to compete with the college football playoff. You can still have these as midweek games. And because it's a playoff, every G5 team will be watching. And these 2 stars and 3 stars who aren't really getting a whole bunch of powerful looks, they can oh, damn. Yo, Liberty was just in the G5 playoffs last year, and they did just win it all. You know what I'm saying? We can even get a championship or primetime slot on ESPN or Amazon. It'll be really good. It can be really good. Imagine last year, we'd have seen Army in this. Wouldn't have seen Boise State because they were gone. We would have seen Ohio in this. Would have possibly seen Miami of Ohio in this. Would have seen some really good teams, possibly a Navy in this in an 18 playoff. We'd have seen UNLV in this. It'd have been a really good playoff. And some of these games probably would have been more competitive than the open round of the college football playoff. If we're being honest, I think the G5 deserve a playoff. I don't think 70 teams fighting for one spot is cool. I don't think it's cool at all. For TV networks, because, TV networks are the commissioners of college football. These fan bases are starved for high-stakes football in December. I remember going to the Conference USA Championship. And those championships aren't neutral site. It was at Liberty. And, the environment was crazy. It was crazy. And then Liberties don't stop believing that they do at the end of the third quarter. A lot of people don't even know about it. But it is dope. They turn all the lights off. Everybody got their phones in the air or lighters in the air. And they play Don't Stop Believing, bro. By Journey, and that joint is crazy. It's crazy. It's so electric. But a lot of people don't know about it because these games aren't really put on the main stage. With the G5 playoff, these games can be put on the main stage, bro. This can be super dope if it's done correctly. It has to be done correctly. That would be like Liberty and App State. One of the best games I've seen in 2023. I'm sorry, it wasn't Liberty and App State. It was JMU and App State. And JMU was undefeated. JMU was fighting for an opportunity to be recognized because of the transition rules. They weren't even ranked. They weren't even allowed to play in a bowl game. And I think finally they were allowed to play in a bowl game because the transition rules are stupid. If a team is successful and you see they're not struggling with the transition from the FCS ranks to the FBS ranks, we don't need transition rules. Like Charlie Baker and them be tripping sometimes. I be trying to defend them, but sometimes they really do be tripping. If I'm just being real, they really do be tripping. So one of the best games I've seen in 2023 in person was JMU and App State. JMU was undefeated. App State went in there and got a win in overtime. One of the best games I've seen in 2023. It was crazy. And guess what? App State travels really well. They travel really well. So this is a great play for TV networks. This is a great play to get these schools that don't get a lot of recognition and time on the national stage. This is the way these conferences can yield more money. It really is. And where these schools can yield more money, they'll get them something to play for. Have a G5 playoff. Now, I know there's going to be a lot of opposition to this, and I'm okay with that. I agree. Everybody don't agree with me. That's cool. But it's no more of this 70 teams fighting for one spot, bro. That ain't cool. It ain't cool at all. Like, at least with college basketball, these lower level mid-major teams, they all have an opportunity to make it by winning their conference. It's not like that in college football. And I like it because it preserves the regular season. But, If Power 4 won't let you in the playoff cup, man, create your own. Seriously. Like, we need a G5 playoff. I think that would be fantastic. And I continue to mention the Celebration Bowl because it's great for HBCU schools. It really is. It's fantastic. Group of 5 schools deserve a seat on the national stage. And to win a championship and crown yourself champions, that'll be dope. I think that'd be really dope. And we get to see it, and you earned it. It's not like you ain't earned it. It's 8 teams vying for a playoff spot. We got 5 conferences. Of course, one of those conference schools is going to the playoffs, to the top 4 conference winners. And we got 4 wild cards left over. We can rank on them, and it'll just give us something to watch. Because we, instead of looking at, some of these bowl games that we merited senseless, they will be worth something then. Going down to the Myrtle Beach Bowl might make sense if you make it a G5 playoff game, right? It probably would, and more people would be interested in it if it was worth something. So give these G5 schools some hope instead of the 70-1 chance that they have of making it. I think that'd be pretty dope. We're gonna go pay some bills before we get into our final segment around the nation. We'll be right back. Look at you out here using all these other sports books, and you ain't even using the best one. BetUS, get 125% match bonus when you use the promo code CFB Nation. Yeah, you heard me correctly. 125% match bonus on your first deposit using that code CFB Nation. We know that college football is in the off season, even though we don't celebrate that. CFB Nation, we do college football 24/7, but there are plenty of things for you guys to bet on.
Who will have the most wins? OKC Thunder or Cleveland Cavaliers? Can Luka and LeBron make it all mesh to make it to the play-in tournament? Maybe you're a college basketball guy ready to risk it all for Florida to make it to the big dance.
Basketball isn't for you? Maybe you're a football guy. Well, BetUS got you covered with this year's UEFA Championship. Can Liverpool or Barcelona win it all? Will Erling Haaland or Harry Kane lead their teams to victory?
May is going to get popping when the Kentucky Derby hits town. BetUS has you covered in that way too, with all major horse racing events. Point is, type in that promo code CLB Nation and go get that money.
Don't forget our sponsors are BetUS, where you can get 125% match bonus on your first deposit using that code CFB Nation. Shout out to everybody watching right now. Believe me, I don't take this for granted. I don't take being in this seat and talking college football with you guys for granted. I do appreciate each and every person that comes in here. We're really starting to build a steady fan base, get steady eyes on us, and that's what it's about. We putting this work in May, so that in August when we heat up, September when we heat up and we on the road and we doing shows on the road, and this thing really starts to take off and blow up. Y'all people say, man, I was here from the beginning. Y'all can put in the comment section like, man, y'all can't comment unless y'all was watching the governor in May, or y'all was watching the governor talk about video games a year ago, or y'all weren't watching the governor overreaction one day. Y'all can say y'all was with this thing from the beginning, and I love that, and it doesn't go unnoticed. I truly do appreciate everybody in here that's watching this. So let's go ahead and crown our post-spring conference champions. You guys are going to disagree with me a lot, and it's okay. I'm not afraid to take risk. I've never been afraid to take risk. I had a lot of bad takes last year. I was spot on in 2023. I knew Michigan was the best team in college football, and I stuck with them winning the college football. And I was right. I was right a lot this year too. I said that Kyle McCord would be a top 5 passer. I said that in February of 2024. 8-9 months later, he was number 1 passer in college football. So I was right about that too. But I had Virginia Tech in my college football playoff last year. That was a bad take. It was a really bad take. I just expected more from Kyron Jones and company, and it just didn't happen. I was expecting more from their wide receiver core too. So I'm unafraid to take breaks. This is just where I'm at now. My official conference winners and college football playoff bracket will come out the 3rd week of fall camp, not a day sooner. It will come out the 3rd week of fall camp. There can be some changes if I see some of the things that I need to see during that time, whether it's, different quarterback competitions, whether it's seeing, how attentive the teams are, whether it's hearing the reports from, various sources, how things are going, then yes, this can change. But right now, this is where I'm at as we look into this, and I'm excited. So let's talk about it. So, yes, it's May, but I'm ready to cast some ballots. SEC champions. I'm going with Texas. I'm scared because I've kind of been a Texas hater for the last 3 years. And I'm sorry, all the fans down in Austin. I really have been. I haven't believed. But watching Steve Sarkisian last year, He's like the coolest play caller in college football. And not because of creativity from his plays, but he's very creative with his plays. I actually have a copy of his 2020 National Championship Alabama offensive playbook. I have a copy of a lot of teams' playbooks. I probably shouldn't admit that, but I do. But I really love the X's and O's. But seeing how cool, calm, and collected he is on the field, like he never looks worried on the field. He'll kind of take a knee, kind of look at over his play call sheet, think about what the defense has been doing, and he's truly an assassin on the sidelines when he's calling plays. So I like that a lot. The Manning media cartel is going to be insane this year. It is going to truly be insane. I think Steve Sarkisian will probably be able to open a playbook up a little bit with Manning's skill set. And even though he has the ability to scramble, I don't think we'll see him as, scrambling every damn play. But I think we will see Steve Sarkisian get creative in the ways that he uses him and a way to get him comfortable early. Because I know a lot of players, at least for me, typically after the kickoff, because I always play kick returner, I was able to settle down after getting hit the first time. I think he'll find those plays, baby. Give him an easy read. Whether it's a quick pass or, something like the read option, something like that, where he can run the ball and get comfortable early. So, Texas is also my way too early national champion pick. I know they've lost a lot of production, but a lot of good schools do lose a lot of productions. But C.J. Baxter is back. Him and Wisner in the backfield is going to be crazy. Anthony Hill running sideline to sideline. The Longhorns are back in a major way. I'm sorry for hating on them for so long, but it is what it is. I don't take it back. ACC champion, I went back and forth with this for a while. I really do. I do believe Clemson is one of the top 2 teams in the country right now. I have Texas number 1. I have Clemson 2. That can change easily before the season starts. Penn State is growing on me as well. So I picked Clemson, but my heart been saying Louisville. I think Clemson will have a better regular season record. I do think Clemson and Louisville meet in ACC championship. And I think if you give Jeff Brom time to prepare for a championship, his team's going to be ready. I truly believe that. But I'm glad people finally stopped sleeping on Clemson. I've said this before and I'll say it again. Moon was the first person I heard really talking about. It's not like I listen to everybody or I'm a part of everybody's discussions before. It's the people that I know and the people that I watch and listen to. Moon was early in on this Clemson bandwagon. And I was like, yo, why is he so high on Clemson? At first. And then I started really looking at their roster construction. Cade is how he was cooking last year. Garrett Riley, what he was doing. Number 1 in return production. Dabo Swinney is doing it his way. We hate it. We hate it so much, but he's doing it his way. He really is doing it his way. He's getting these players out of high school, an immense amount of loyalty. So I'm going to edge Clemson right now to win the ACC. I think they'll have the best record in the conference, bar none. But I think if they meet Louisville in the championship, Louisville's going to give them all that they can handle. And I think they play in the regular season as well. So watch out for Clemson. That's my pick right now, but that's subject to change. And I almost put Louisville in this spot. My Big 12 champion, no surprise, you all can say it on the count of 3. 1, 2, 3, is Iowa State. I like this team a lot. I like the makeup of this team. I called Matt Campbell out last season. Matt Campbell answered the call. Not that he heard me call him out or anything, but I really called him out. I said, if not now, then when? And yes, they got embarrassed in the Big 12 championship last year. We all know that. Cam Scatterboo happened. A lot of teams would have got embarrassed in that moment because Cam Scatterboo completely took over the game. But let's not forget that, Iowa State, did finish second in that conference last year. A lot of good teams in the Big 12 last year. I know a lot of people don't like Colorado. Colorado was one of those good teams. Kansas State was one of those good teams. BYU was a really good team. And for the longest, it looked like, BYU would end up winning that conference. But I think it'll be the same this year. We'll have a lot of teams that are on the cusp of being great. And hopefully Iowa State somewhere there. Other schools that I thought about in this spot, I'm not as high as on Arizona State. I think Texas Tech has the ability to do great things this year. And another team that I'm watching is Josh Hoover and company. TCU, Sonny Dykes, he's done it before. He did it in 2022. Yeah, Garrett Riley was there. Max Duggan was there at quarterback. But that's another team that I'm watching. I just know that every year in the Big 12, we are going to get a team that comes out of nowhere. Can that team win the conference? Who knows? But just every year in the Big 12, we get a team that comes out of nowhere. So I'm kind of spitballing here. Baylor is another team to watch in that conference. But right now where my mind is, I think I'm with Iowa State. I'm buying a lot of Matt Campbell's stock. And also, I think this pick may not change and into fall camp unless I see some things that I hate, and then it'll change. But it'll be rough. Big Ten champion, I'm going with Penn State. I think Penn State has one of the best roster constructions. They got the best coordinator combo in the league, and Andy Connell, Nicky, and Jim Knowles. Jim Knowles going to have a chip on his shoulder. And it's crazy. A guy who just won a national championship, a guy who, had his defense playing lights out in Columbus last year, and Ohio State was just like kind of waiting for Godot to get this man a contract offer. Like he ain't him. Like he ain't the best defensive coordinator in the sport. Okay. Penn State was like, hey, man, we'll pay you, bro. We respect what you do. We know what you do. We had a 10-point lead against y'all last year and lost because we couldn't move the ball in the second half. They gave him $3.1 million. They gave him 3 million reasons of why he should come to Happy Valley and make them a, national championship contender. 3 million reasons. So my Big Ten champion is Penn State. Other teams I'm thinking about in this spot, Illinois. I think about Illinois a lot in this spot. Really do. And if it wasn't how talented Penn State was, it wouldn't surprise me at all if Illinois ended up in their conference championship. And I know Oregon's there. I know Ohio State is there. And, depending on how high you are with Michigan, that's a wait and see for me, especially with Sharon Moore sitting out games this year. But I'm high on Illinois. I'm high on Lou Altmaier. High on Hudson Clement. I'm high on Brett Bielema. High on Barry Looney Jr. But Penn State right now check more boxes in my book than Illinois does, but I'm still high on Illinois, and I'm not taking anything away from them. The easiest layup for me out of all of these, and you guys are probably like, what's the easiest layup for the governor? The easiest layup for me, believe it or not, Liberty, Conference USA champion. Easiest layup. They got the easiest schedule in the country. The easiest. When I say the easiest, like they got the 136th toughest schedule in the country. So 136 teams in the FBS, you do the math. The easiest schedule. Jamie Chadwell's going to be on a warpath. Didn't like what I saw a lot last year with Caden Salter. And granted, I'm at these games, so it's a little bit more I see at these games than you guys see on television. We're paying attention to body language. We're paying attention to when coaches want these teams, during those TV timeouts or when, like, it's quarter changes. A lot of times coaches like to meet with their whatever units on the field, and you'll see, like, the offense meet on the sideline and, like, typically the quarterback's kind of right there in the middle of things. Caden Salter be kind of off to the side, like, bro, I'm tired of this team. So was it a surprise at the end of the portal? No, it wasn't. But when I tell you Liberty is coming back for their respect, they know that they're a beast in Conference USA. They returned 61% of their production. I think Ethan Vasco is going to light it up. A quarterback this year for them, and Jamie Chadwell, this will be his last season, at least for the interim, I think, coaching at the G5 ranks. He should get a Power 4 job after this year. If Liberty isn't successful, if Liberty doesn't win the Conference USA, if Liberty isn't one of those schools vying for and fighting for that G5 spot in the college football playoff, something went horribly wrong and terribly wrong. I look at a lot of schools. There's schools that I love. Like, I love what Dan Mullen is doing. And yes, I know he just got to UNLV. I really love what he's doing. I thought he was mistreated in Gainesville, and we'll talk about UNLV a little bit later. So when I'm just, I start thinking about teams that can really fight for that G5 spot, UNLV is up there as well. But Liberty, if Liberty don't run through their conference, if they're not in the Conference USA championship, and if they don't win the Conference USA championship, something went wrong. If Jamie Chadwell doesn't get a P4 job this upcoming, during the coaches carousel in December, something went wrong. Something went terribly wrong. And I feel that strong about Liberty. I feel strong about Liberty as far as winning their conference than any other team. MAC champion is hard every year. And I've went with the same team the last 3 years, and I've been wrong the last 3 years. But Chuck Martin has been a staple in Oxford, Ohio. He really has. And one thing we know immediately about a Chuck Martin coach team is that they're going to be physical. And I mean physical. And they got sneaky in a portal. Very sneaky in a portal. They got DeQuan Finn from Toledo. Not sure what happened last year, but they got him by the way of Baylor. But if he can produce like he did in 2023 with 22 touchdowns and 9 INTs, I think we have something. I truly do think we have something. We know that Chuck Martin and company is going to play defense, but he got really active in the portal and got, guys that got P4 experience. Their starting wide receivers all have P4 experience, which I think is important when you start looking at your G5 teams. They got Reynolds, Williams, and Cozier wide receivers. Miami of Ohio was 9th in the country, and Bill Connolly's return to production rating 9th in the country. That's going to bode well for them this year. We know they lost the MAC championship this past season, but I am buying all Red Hawk stock. This is one of those ones where I'm just, at some point it gotta be right? So I'm sticking with Miami over Ohio to win the MAC. American Athletic, I think this is the one that's going to kind of make people angry a little bit. I know the fan base in Annapolis has a right to be mad because they're returning a lot of production. Navy is really good, and there's a team. I think D now had season credentials too for this past season. I had season credentials for them in 2023. Really enjoy their stadium outside of the fact that you almost get ran over whenever they score a touchdown. You got to be careful if you go to a Navy game and you watching it from the field. And if you're in the end zone that they score a touchdown, you either got to stand still, you know what I'm saying, and don't move or get the hell out of the way, but you really can't get out of the way because then you're going to have, 150 people running to do push-ups in the end zone, bruh. So you literally, and they yelling when they running. So you literally got, it's like you playing Twister, bruh. Like they running, you got, hit the Heisman on them. You got to freeze, bruh. It is scary. I'm telling you, it's scary. I think, as a matter of fact, it might be more scary than when Clemson's running down. I was right, running down the hill to on the field. You got to get the hell out of the way with that, too. But these are football players. These mofos are in the military. It's a difference. It's 100% difference. The women are scary, too. I ain't playing. I ain't lying. I'm telling you, they will run you over, bro, to get their push-ups done. So, yes, the fans in Annapolis have a reason to be upset with me. But South Florida, anybody who been watching me for a while know I'm a huge fan of Alex Golish. Huge fan. My phone will not stop going off, I swear. Huge fan of Alex Golish. They're returning 67% of their production. Best in the conference. Year 3 for Alex Golish. Byron Brown is back. And if he can deliver like he did in 2023 with 37 total touchdowns, 3,292 yards, and another 800 on the ground, Alex Golish, veer and shoot offense. Even though I'm not a fan of the offense, I do like Alex Golish veer and shoot a little bit better than I like Joey Hazel's veer and shoot, just being honest. But it matches Byron Brown's skill set. They got running back Cartavius Norton, by the way, at a portal from Charlotte. This was a huge loss for Charlotte. I know we were talking about the 49ers early, but with limited carries, he still rushed for 500 yards and scored 7 touchdowns. With a stellar passing game, and that veer and shoot offense is so wide, Norton should be able to get a lot of yards on the ground. And again this year, the only thing about USF, they have a tough non-con schedule. Starting the season home versus Boise State, then at Florida and at Miami. But then they have a fairly easy conference schedule, and they avoid Army, Tulane, and ECU, who I think are other teams to watch. We have to be very careful with this USF team. I know they play Boise State, and I know Boise State going to have their team ready, but I'm telling you, South Florida can win this game. We see South Florida give Alabama all they can handle, and this ain't Kalen DeBoer's Alabama. This is Nick Saban Alabama, 2023, when we ain't quite know who was going to be the quarterback. They gave them all. I think it was a rain delay game too. They gave them all that they can handle. I'm telling you, USF, if you think they can't beat Florida and find a way to beat Florida, you're tripping. If you think they can't beat Miami, I'm not as high as Miami. I looked at sometimes I look, I reevaluate my shows, see how well I done, points I could have been more clearly about, places that I rushed too much. I was looking back at my top 25, and I kept staring at Miami. And I was looking at that top 20. I was like, there's a team that don't belong, bro. And I know the people in 305 will be upset with me, but there's a team that don't belong, bro. I was looking at Miami as that team that don't belong. I don't buy it. I don't buy Mario Cristobal. I'm sorry. Even though he can recruit really well, they had Cameron Ward last year and the help of the refs and still couldn't get in the ACC championship game because they got the help of the refs versus Virginia Tech. Shouldn't have beat Cal. Still couldn't win the ACC. But Cameron Ward is your quarterback. That kind of bothered me a little bit. But if you think that USF can't beat Boise State and it can't beat Florida, I think they can compete with Florida. I don't know if they'll beat Florida, but they can compete with Miami, and I think they can beat Miami, if I'm being honest. With a fairly easy non-con schedule, even if you got them losing those first 3 games, they'll go 9-3, and they could probably run the conference. I got them 10-2. Mountain West champion, UNLV. I foreshadowed this earlier. Now that Barry Odom is back in the Big Ten at Purdue, I think the guy who was unfairly treated during his tenure in Gainesville, and I think Florida Gator fans can look at this and go back and say, you know what, Governor, we agree with you. Dan Mullen. What was he, 35 and 14 during his time in Gainesville? He's a disciplinarian, and I think he will hold his players accountable to the highest of levels. Some of the mess we seen that happened at UNLV last season, this is no shot at Barry Odom, but with Matthew Sluka, who's now at JMU, by the way, Dan Mullen would have read them their rights, bro. You think you gonna do that with Dan Mullen and live to talk about it, bro? I'm telling you, the first press conference, Dan Mullen would have been on their head, bro. He not going for that. Well, he can leave. What are you gonna believe? 50-something% of his passes, Dan Mullen would have told it like it was, and everybody would have been in their feelings, bro. College football was kind of undefeated during that time too. When Matthew Sluka left, they had a running back that leave like a week later from UNLV. Man, Dan Mullen would have been all over that, bro. Cause he honest, man. Sometimes maybe a little too honest, but he honest. I'm telling you. So UNLV will be, my champion in Mountain West. I thought they could have won the Mountain West last season, honestly, but UNLV sneakingly has one of the best quarterback rooms in the country. Like, what are you talking about, Governor? Alex Orji might not like him, but in the system that they run, he's going to be good. And they also, they got him from Michigan. They also got Anthony Calandria from UVA last year, who showed flashes. That's a really good quarterback room. If you, looking at a team like, hey, if Orji don't work out, you got another guy. But I think these guys are going to come in with chips on their shoulder. Yes, they played at really high, P4 ball for Orji, and Calandria was at UVA, but that's a really good quarterback room. I'm liking him. Jaden Thomas had a beautiful season. He averaged 5.6 yards per carry last year, had over 900 yards and 7 touchdowns. He wasn't really talked about much unless you watch a lot of Mountain West football because, Ashton Genty, what he did last year was just unprecedented, So he stole all of the hype. But Jaden Thomas is really good. Really good. They retooled the offensive line. Dan Mullen got active in the portal, both offensively and defensively. And Dan Mullen's resume speaks for itself. And the city of Las Vegas isn't hard to sell at all. I'm all in on UNLV this season for winning the Mountain West. Sunbelt champion for me is James Madison. This was one of the harder ones. To be honest with you guys, I wasn't sure, but because of my relationship with that school, that's one of the closest schools to our network. My belief in what they do out there in Huntington, Virginia, is the reason why I went with them. It'll be interesting. Last year was a weird year for them. Like, they went undefeated in their non-con, and that includes putting 70 points on UNC last year. But then went 4-4 in conference play. That was really weird. I'm hoping they're able to clean things up, and James Madison is able to win the conference. So this is our last episode for the week. It's been a really fun week. Make sure you guys subscribe to the Governor of College Football over on YouTube. I will be repurposing a lot of the content, like I said earlier, this week. It's been a fun week of college football, man. It's in May. We're giving y'all 4 episodes a week and 4 quality episodes every week as well. And I hope you guys see with this show that, yes, we talk a lot of P4 ball, talk a lot of G5 ball, but we will also talk lower level ball as well. As I always like to say, there are no more victories in a sport that survive in advance. That's why college football has the greatest regular season. And until next time, I see you all next Monday. Can't wait to talk more football with you. Governor of college football, we're going to recap ACC.
Hey, that's CJ on
Defensive
the
minds.
track.
They have to be better on that side of the ball.